Hi everyone, welcome to the latest edition of Do It with Rio. Today I've got Mathura joining us from Simply Empowering. I actually met Mathura quite a few years ago, I think via the Monstar Awards, right? When
Yep.
you were CEO of Ascendance. Hey, I'd love you to jump in and just give everyone a quick introduction.
All right. Hi, guys. Madhura here. Very nice to meet all of you. I think, yes, I used to be the CEO of Ascendance. I've officially stepped down and I'm currently the advisor of Ascendance. But I'm still one of the co-founders, of course. And I also am the junior director at Simply Empowering, where we provide outsource accounting and business advisory services. And I'm very passionate about personal finance and making sure the younger generation is educated on it.
I think it's not just the younger generation, right? I think also the
Yes.
the older generation, myself included, are not exactly financially literate. But of course, I'm more financially literate when I was younger. But
Yep.
yeah, so when we first met, you were at Ascendance. Now you're at Simply Empowering. But I also saw you've recently published a book, Money Matters, to help empower younger people to become more financially literate. But actually, what made you want to publish a book now?
I think it's a very good question. Why now, right? So because recently I stepped down at the end of 2020, I actually stepped down. So I had a lot of time to think. For the past 6 years, I've just been working very hard. So I
Yeah,
had a lot of time to think and reflect on what has happened in my life, and I kind of wanted to share this with people. I feel like a lot of youngsters would benefit from knowing how I built my career, how I
mm,
started earning. I feel like it was a bit unconventional compared to the way it's done right now by many youngsters out there. So
yeah.
if I could share this, at least the youngsters out there will know there's other options to develop a career, there's other options to manage your finances, and they can start working on it while they are now in school or college or wherever they may be. Yeah.
Because actually, at Ascendance, you started Ascendance when you were 19, right? And
Yes.
most of your CMO, the current CEO, was also very young. Uh,
Yes. He
what
was just
what what
13.
what was it like starting a company at such a young age? And actually, would you recommend that to young people?
I I personally found it to be one of the best experiences I've had in my life, because like a lot of people can't. I mean, like writing a book, right? It's not possible if you don't actually have experiences to write about. And I
Yeah,
feel like the only reason I have it is because I went through the experience of building an organization like Ascendance. And yes, it may be a struggle. A lot of people are very wary about doing it when you're a teenager or when you're a student. But I feel like that is the best time to do it, because if you make a mistake when you're a student, you can still build a life after that,
yeah,
and nothing's going to go that terribly wrong. So it's the
yeah.
best time to work on your entrepreneurship in a way.
Got more time on your hands. But
Yes.
actually, what what made you feel or made you passionate about raising awareness in youngsters of the importance of financial planning and just general financial literacy?
I've always enjoyed money, like how to manage money and all that.
Me
Since I was a
too.
kid, I've always found it
I've,
very
I've,
intriguing and
I've enjoyed money, but I've never enjoyed managing it. Just the money.
yes,
That's
that
why I've
is so.
that's why I've never got any.
I used to be exactly the same. In fact, even when I started Ascendance, even though I was an accountant, right? I studied accounting. I was working as an accountant. Even then, I still made a lot of mistakes in finance. And when I look back, they are really like stupid mistakes. Like I could
Yeah.
have done so much better at that age. And right now, I'm 25. Like I could have built up so much of savings. I would have gone much more into investments, but I made a lot of mistakes at the beginning. So when I look back, I'm like, wow, okay, all I had to do was listen, and probably I would have listened if it was a peer talking to me in a way. Like if
Yeah.
it was because it was my parents or the mentors that I have, it's not that appealing in a way. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like it is very important to talk about this, and I don't want other people to make the same mistakes as me. Yeah.
Mm. And you, with your current company, you run various workshops and do
Yep.
coaching for young people, like I guess the Gen Y, Gen Z.
Yep.
Um, what are the key methods you use to help people stop falling into financial crisis? Like a lot of young people do, especially graduates when they first
Yep.
graduate. Um, how can you help stop them falling into financial ruin, for want of a better word?
many times the ones I meet, I have two groups of people that I work with. One is the ones who are already in a financial mess despite being very young, and some are like even students, they're just starting off, so they can set it right. And both groups, what I try to do is, I think there's plenty of things out there where you can learn from on how you must do your budget and how you must allocate your wealth. There's plenty of content going out there that people can learn from. But what most people need is the guidance on discovering their habit patterns, because like it's simple stuff, right? Like for me, how I spend my money is revolving around how I'm feeling on that day. If I'm feeling stressed, I would love to go for expensive food for some weird reason. So because of that, it affects my finances. So I help a lot of people to just observe what is happening with them and figure out what are the habit patterns that is kind of causing them to keep going into that problem in a way. So
Mm.
when we look at ourselves, we are quite biased. Like even if for myself, if I look at myself, I'm like, I'm perfect at money. I have no money problems. But till today, I still do, and I need my mentors to look at me and tell me what I'm doing wrong. So I
Mm.
kind of play that role with these youngsters to observe the patterns, and then when we figure out, we will kind of put in measures to not let that pattern get into a huge problem. We manage the pattern and ensure they can progress towards what they truly want in a way. So
Mm.
yeah.
Do you think the pandemic has made it worse or better? I mean, I know on my side, when I have a bad day at work, on my lunch break or after lunch, I just go to the mall, spend some money. But with the pandemic, I realize I'm spending so much less because I'm simply not in
Yeah.
malls so much. But is that just me, or do you think it's everybody?
I think the pandemic has been as I don't mean to sound harsh, like it has been a blessing because it has one taught a lot of people why finances matter. I think it has
Yeah.
woken up even me, woke up me in a way I don't think I was awake before. So it has made me more aware. That's one. And I think that's the same with a lot of people that I work with. Two, yes, a lot of us save plenty of money in these past 2 years because we realize we don't need to drive everywhere and we can just have meetings on Zoom, and we're going to save a lot of money doing that. We did save money, but I always tell my clients, especially now, that right now is the actually the most interesting period of time as we transition back into doing physical meetings and all of that. I see a lot of people going out for movies and all of that. That's when the lifestyle creep starts coming back in. So I see a lot of my clients going back into the same habits of overspending. So we kind of discuss that, and we also preempt that now itself by observing that pattern in a way.
Mm. No, it's very interesting. I give a lot of workshops and advice on job hunting,
Yep.
and I often give people a list of things that they need to do for their LinkedIn profile, for their CV, and they thank me for the advice. And then 6 months later, they get back in touch and say, John, I haven't really progressed. I haven't found a job. And I look at their LinkedIn profile and their CV, and they've done nothing that I've
Yes.
actually told them to do. So I
Yes.
always try and make it as simple as possible with as few steps as possible. Uh, but for yourself, when you're talking to graduates, youngsters, if there's only one piece of advice, either based on your own experience or based on what you think is the best thing to do, if there's only one piece of advice you can give them, what do you tell them?
Um, I think one of the things that I notice with my generation is that we are very excited to invest. I think compared to any other generation out
Mm.
there, we are the ones with the tools to immediately invest, and
Yeah,
we
yeah,
are privileged in that way. So I noticed that many people out there right now, especially the fresh graduates who are going into a job, they are super excited to invest. But if I ask them if they have any savings in place, they have nothing. And it kind of shocks me because, like, yes, your investments are great, but investment is still a risk. You still need some amount of savings. So one of the advice I would definitely give is, as much as we strive towards these investments, and yes, it's important to beat inflation and all of that, have some savings. And the pandemic taught us all that 3 months is no longer enough. It's probably
yeah.
encouraged to have a year savings in place, so that no matter, things will go wrong in life, nobody's life is going to be perfect. So when it does go wrong, you're at least taken care of because you have these funds in place.
Yeah, it's amazing actually. I mean, going back to myself giving advice to people on job hunting and things like this. Sometimes people tell me they want to find a new career. You know, maybe they made a mistake with their education in terms of what area they decided to study, and then they just went into that area of work, and they've been unhappy for 5 years, so they
Yeah.
want to completely change their career, and they tell me that they're going to quit their jobs and concentrate fully on trying to find another job. And the first thing I ask them is how many months of living costs you have saved up.
Yep.
And quite often they say what, uh, and I make them look at their bank balance and tell me. And quite often they've got 1 month, 2 month living costs
Yep.
in their bank account, and they're seriously thinking about quitting their job and hoping they find a job before before the money runs out. Which
Yep.
I'm not particularly risk averse. I like taking risks, but at
Yep.
the same time, some things are just stupid, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and it's sometimes it's amazing what what people are prepared to do when they're desperate, when they
Yes.
really want change, but they don't exactly know how to do it, and they just decide to throw everything in. And like you said, with the investments, they just decide to throw everything in order to try and create change. But actually, more often than not, it creates disruption and
Yes.
regret and things like this. But I mean, I guess in many ways I give advice based on the stupid things that I've done myself in the past. I've learned the hard way many things. I've made many stupid decisions myself with my career. But I mean, for you, are there things that you tell people you're working with, the absolute no-nos, like the absolute things, do not do this? What are the biggest mistakes that, let's say fresh graduates, what are the biggest mistakes that fresh grads can make financially?
I think the mistake you and I made, right, is not being aware on what you're committing to. So, like the first thing I did the moment I was done with my full time studies, and I decided I needed a car to do my work. If I without a car, I'm not gonna survive. And I was fortunate because my father allowed me to. He said he would put in the deposit and get me a car, and I just have to pay the installment payments. And I was like, wow, this is a great deal. I'm gonna take it out, and I just went for the loan. And that's what I see way too many people do. Everyone gets their first car and they don't care how expensive it is. They don't understand the fact that you
Yeah.
are stuck with this for the next 5 years, and they just commit to it, being very, very optimistic about the future. So that's what I see. So, like, one of the things I try, if they are fresh graduates and they have not committed to anything, is just to think 10 times before you commit to anything. But even then, there are plenty of people who still make those mistakes. And I feel like sometimes people just have to go through this. Like, I only woke up and started paying attention to my finances when I had to pay my loan and I barely had money to eat. And then I was like, okay, I've done something horribly wrong. So, so I feel like they have to go through it. When they do, then I help them to address it and come out of it in a way.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's it's all it's almost not so much focused on finance and money as it is about status and
Yes.
the status symbols that we feel that we need, and the lifestyle that we feel that we need to live,
Yep.
and that we want to reflect. And we try to get our finances to keep up with that, but actually it's an uphill struggle. But debt is quite a dangerous thing. I've been lucky enough not to fall into serious debt myself. The usual student loan and
Yep.
a few overdrafts when I first graduated, but nothing serious. But I have seen it just really disrupt the lives of friends.
Yep.
If you're dealing with someone who is in that situation where they have got themselves into that vicious cycle of debt,
Yep.
and borrowing money to pay loans and getting themselves into more debt, how do you help someone like this? Let's say purely on the financial side, because there's also a psychological and mental health issue to it many times. But on the financial side, what's the best thing that you think they can start to do?
I think I personally had a few people that I work with who do have a lot of debts. Some have those, small debts owing to this family member, that
Mm,
friend, and a lot of other things going on. And then there are those who have like a personal loan, a car loan, and a house loan, and all of it coming together.
mm,
Most of the time, what I do with these people is just address the small one first. because it builds up confidence. So many times the ones I meet, the ones who are ridden with debt, they are also the ones who would have absolutely no savings. They would have zero savings, and it is they it's kind of like demotivating when you look at your own finances and you're like, wow, I have no savings, but I have so much, I owe people so much. So what I usually try to do is get them to enjoy this process of managing their finances. So what helps is, one, when they start saving up money and they start seeing it increase, it really boosts their confidence, like, wow,
Mm.
I'm actually achieving something right now, like I'm actually making progress too. And the second step is, of course, paying off the smallest one so that they feel that achievement sense again, like, oh, okay, I've settled this one small 200 ringgit owing thing I had. Next thing I'm going to address is the 5,000 one, and they have more confidence to go for it. So more, what I help people to do is making sure that they're in the right frame of mind, they're focused on the solution, not on the problem that is staring right at their face.
Mm.
And two is to stay focused on the plan that they say they are committed to, because most of the time that's what happens, right? We'll say we are committed to this plan and we'll give up 1 week down the road. So I just help them ensure that they stay committed to it and get it
Mm.
done. And when they achieve it, they feel much better, so they're able to continue on making progress in their finances. That's what
Yeah.
helps most of my clients. Yep.
It's exactly the same with job hunting or with fitness. If you
Yes,
if you if
yes.
you look if you look at the big goal, it's often it's so big, it's so far away, it seems so far out of your ability to get there. But if you
Yep.
just start breaking it down to smaller goals and only focus on the small goals, it's just like going up one step at a time. You can see where you need to get. It's achievable. You can reward yourself when you hit it. But if
Yep.
you just always looking at the top, looking at the distance, it's so demotivating. It seems like it's going
Yes.
to take forever. I always tell job seekers, just pick out your CV summary. Just write a CV summary. Tomorrow, send it to 5 people and ask them for feedback. The next day, action that feedback. Just these little tiny goals on little tiny parts of what you're doing, and
Yep.
it makes a huge difference. But we mentioned your book earlier. How long did it take you to write a book? I've always dreamed of writing a book, but as ignoring my own advice, I've always looked at the big picture of writing a book. I've never broken it down to
Yeah.
the smaller goals. How long did it actually take you?
It took me about this whole year. I think I started writing in January this year, and I published it on the 9th, launched it on the 9th. So it took me about a year, I guess. But I think half of that timing was just me procrastinating, and I actually only got the work done towards the last few months in a way. So it was,
And it,
like you said, it was a very daunting task. But when I just focused on sharing, I think it came much easier for me to write.
yeah. Actually, is it focused on or targeted at people who do want to achieve financial independence and build savings and build investments? Or is it focused on helping people who are struggling? Or a
I
bit of
think
both?
it's a bit of what my focus more. By the way, this is the book I've
Ah,
written,
nice.
matters. So I try to make it into a guide for the youngsters, especially Gen Zs, because they are the ones who are leaving colleges and universities right now. So the focus is a lot more on career building, because that is thing that most youngsters struggle with. It is a very scary aspect of their life.
Mm.
I'm sure you encounter all of those scared people on a day-to-day
Yeah.
basis. And then I also talk about being independent as a youngster, right? Because I personally am someone who comes from this background where I was very comfortable with everything being taken care for me. I was privileged, I was taken care of, and everything's good. But only when I started taking charge of my life, becoming more independent, doing the things that I wanted to do, did I actually start learning lessons in life. So
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of them, if they place that emphasis on becoming independent at an early age, they will learn a lot in life and they will progress much faster. And I do talk a little bit about the beginning stages of financial management, just getting the basics right, because I don't talk so much on investing and all of that, because I think that's the next step. If you can't get your foundation right, you're not going to struggle when you go into
Mm.
investing. So getting the basics right, and I think hopefully in the future I can guide them more on the investing and all of that as well.
And actually, I completely forgot. I wanted to talk about this at the beginning of the session, but I think we moved on to other subjects.
Yeah.
Just before the pandemic, you won the Diana Award, right?
Yes. I think
Ah,
in
tell me about that.
2019.
Obviously, my home country. Tell me,
Yes.
tell me a bit more about how that came about.
I think Diana Award was a shock for us because we were definitely not expecting it. One of our corporate partners in Ascendance, so they actually nominated us for the work we do. So the four co-founders of Ascendance were the ones who won the Diana Award. And back then in Malaysia, nobody has heard of the Diana Award. Nobody has won it. Nothing has happened yet so far. So we were the first Malaysians to win it.
Oh
For
wow!
me, it was a huge honor. That's one, because there's people who recognize the work we do, and that was a something great. But more than that is it has helped us expand our network to a group of amazing youngsters across the world. So the Diana Award basically recognizes social and humanitarian works done by youngsters from age of 9 to 25. So basically everyone who is there is like younger than me, and they are all have done amazing things impacting their communities and all of that. So Ascendance actually managed to go internationally and reach out to so many people because of these amazing Diana Award winners as well. There are so many of them. There's some of them who are 10 years old, who are like campaigning for parks. There's people who are solving water sanitation issues. All of them are part of that, and it's just an honor to be a part of that lineup in a way.
Yeah, I saw it on your profile. Obviously, I'm fairly familiar with the Diana Awards. So yeah, that's fantastic. But I think we've covered everything that we wanted to speak about.
Yep.
Thank you so much again for coming on and talking about some of the things that you're doing at the moment. Congratulations on the Diana Award, even though I think it was a year and a half, 2 years ago now.
Yes.
And congratulations on publishing your first book. I'm
Thank you.
very envious. I'm very envious. I need to get on that myself. But yeah, thank you again for coming on onto the show. Everyone at home, thanks for listening. If you do want to reach out, if you have some questions that you want to ask either of us, or whether it's on the job hunting side or the financial side, I'll include all the links to contact either of us below. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you again for joining us today. And we'll catch up again soon. Bye, everyone. Okay.